in our system to send this to YouTube. I'm hoping it's triggering now. Yep, it has. Hey, YouTube! Sorry about that, folks. We're 20 minutes into the show, and I just found out we weren't streaming on YouTube. Sorry. We will repeat most of what we were talking about earlier, later in the show. But I can repeat a few things now. That's unfortunate, guys. I do apologize for that. We were talking about Stevens Point having Nate Dodge and being pretty good. We were talking about Oshkosh being pretty good. All factual. All with a lot of season ahead of them. We were also talking about how there's so many teams not playing this time of year. Also factual. Lots teams playing, lots of teams not playing. Sean writes, just based on watching them versus Alma within 24 hours. All right, Sean, so you're making a determination that Oshkosh is 20 points better than Whitewater by watching a game against Alma. Yeah, no. Can't jump on that one. Brian, thanks for agreeing. I appreciate it. I agree, and Alma was the best team they played so far. Well, that's the knock with Whitewater right now, is that maybe their schedule has been a little light. I'm not voting for Whitewater right now. I only have two teams in the WIAC in my top 25. And one of the reasons is I haven't seen what Whitewater hasn't put a schedule together yet that tells me a lot of information. Considering how many transfers and new players they've got there, I want to see a little bit more before I jump on board. But I still know what the WIAC brings on a daily night in conference play. I still know that those four teams alone are going to be difficult, and no one's probably going to go through this conference undefeated. If someone goes through this conference undefeated, wowza. And we still haven't talked about the other teams in this conference who on any given night could win. Yes, Eau Claire doesn't look awesome this year in men's basketball, but doesn't mean they're not going to get one right. Doesn't mean they aren't going to give somebody a hard time, especially at their place. The WIAC has become one of the more difficult conferences on any given night in conference play. The ODAC, I think, is in there. The MAC Commonwealth is in there. Now, I'm not talking about the best conferences per se, but I'm talking about the competitiveness in conference play on any given night regarding any game. The WIAC may be the most difficult. The MAC Commonwealth is up there, though people don't really realize it because they don't produce teams at the top. But on any given night, the MAC Commonwealth is a beast. I'm trying to... the CCIW's in that conversation, too, in terms of any given night. And Wheaton has been showing that both positively and negatively. I mean, Wheaton goes and beats Illinois Wesleyan, and Illinois Wesleyan goes on to lose to Augustana. But Wheaton also lost to North Park, and North Park got a couple big wins, but they've also struggled. So those 3-4 conferences, just in terms of competitiveness, are unreal. Now add in the incredible abilities that those teams have in terms of talent and national considerations. And the WIAC it's one of the reasons WIAC's in the top 5. It's the reason the CCIW's in the top 5. It's why I still say the ODAC's in the top 5, even though they haven't produced the national competitiveness we've seen. They've still been more consistent, or that we've seen in recent years. They're still more consistent. It makes for a fascinating time of year. We'll see in the season. We'll see what happens to WIAC. Exactly. Well, Sean, if that's all you've got to go on is a common opponent in the last 24 hours, that's not much to go on. And this is why common opponents can be dangerous, folks. Matchups for starters change everything. A team can match up better against one team than another. That doesn't mean that any of those teams is the same difference, better or worse. I can't sit here and tell you that a team is 20 points better than another based on one common opponent. I can't. No. There's a bigger resume out there. There's so many factors into those different results that you cannot use across the board to compare. Now, regional committees, national committees will use those scenarios, but that's because they're getting so deep into the weeds trying to differentiate teams that they need some kind of tiebreaker. But notice in the regional rankings, they don't tell you Oshkosh is 20 points better than Whitewater. So, yes, I understand that there's a difference in points in their game against Alma, in their games against Alma. But that does not translate. And by the way, should Whitewater beat Oshkosh, Sean, you're now stuck on a 20-point prediction here. You got to go on what else you see in other games. That's what I try and do. I try and look at other games and use those all. Yes, I'll look at a comparison. I will use it as a win-loss, but I'm not going to say – once it gets past a certain amount of points, argument will be maybe 10 or 12. I don't care anymore. If a team beat a team by 10 and a team beat them by 2, I know both games were close. If a team beat somebody by 20 and somebody beat them by 2, I at least understand that there was a difference in scoring there, and it may help me make a decision if it's up to those two teams. But it's not dictating to me who's better by a certain amount. Hello, Andrew. We talk about hope tonight or not? Andrew, we try and talk about hope when we can. I understand Platteville's good, Andrew, but they're also 5-3. Having lost, who they lose? They lost to Wheaton, which isn't bad. They'll take on Hope. I'm not saying Platteville's bad. I just don't know why they're 5-3. That surprises me. You think the Hope girls could take number 1? Not right now. Maybe if they play Thomas More and win. If they were to play Thomas More this weekend and beat them, maybe they can take over number 1 from Bowdoin. But the game against Finlandia will not get them past Bowdoin, and they need to be playing Thomas More and win to maybe have a hope. But that also means a whole mess of voters have to jump off of Bowdoin for that to end up being the case. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we got our first interview out of the gates. Brian says, if you want to get rid of that awesome jersey on the door, I'll take it. Nope, Brian, I'm not. If you'd like to get somebody to send one in to go with it, go ahead. But those jerseys you see in my studio are going nowhere. We actually have a few more to hang in the break in the holidays. All right, going to take a break. When we come back, we will talk Skyac basketball with Pomona Pitzer men's basketball coach Charlie Katsiafekis. Will join us next. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. Back with more Hoopsville after this.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Now that we finally got our YouTube page fully up and running, hope you're enjoying it on YouTube. Sorry for the delay there. One little hiccup there, and we didn't get it pointing in the right direction. Got any questions for us? Tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Our first guest is out of the West Coast in the SCIAC. Pomona Pitzer made news, starting 6-1 this season by defeating Whitman back on November 24th in double overtime, 112-109. 6 days later, unfortunately, they lost on the road in St. Louis at WashU, 66-62, before then winning 88-76 against Alma the next day. Back home, got into conference play and defeated Claremont Mudd Scripps, picked to finish in the top four, 73-65. They got a game tonight, and then they're into nothing but Division III opponents, and they've got a couple coming up that we'll have our eyes on, including the game against Hardin Simmons on December 29th. There's a lot to wonder about the Sage Hens. What exactly do we make of a win against Whitman in double overtime, yet a loss to a pretty good WashU squad just 6 days later? Well, we figured we'd talk to the source. Charles Katsiafakis joins us earlier, better known as Coach Cat, to talk about that result in particular and what it meant in the grand scheme of things. Also, he talked about what the SCIAC could look like this year and why reality out there is very different than reality elsewhere. Now joining me on the Hoopsville hotline is the head coach of Pomona Pitzer. It is Charles Katsiafakis. And Coach, thanks for taking the time.
You bet. Glad to be on.
I appreciate it. We should point out you have a game later, so we are pre-recording this one. Guys are off to a 6-1 start. Granted to two of those schools and about to be a third to teams we don't know all that well here in Division III land. But how's the start felt from your point of view?
I'm really pleased with the way our team has started this season. Obviously, we've only had one conference game, and so we're still building up to the post-semester break part of the season where you get into your conference, and really that's kind of the meat and potatoes of things. But as you say, we've played a couple games here. We opened up with Biola, who in the Division III world not a lot of folks know about, but that was just a tremendous start for us, beating them in our opener. We've been playing them for probably 20 years now, and we had only beaten them once prior to this year. So that win kind of really got us going. We have good senior leadership this year, and so far we feel very good about the start we've put together.
Yeah, wins in Division III. You got that one in Game 3 at Claremont, where you beat Willamette. And then Whitman the next night went double overtime. That kind of got you some attention, Coach. Some people kind of noticed you beating one of the top dogs in Division III this season, 112-109. What went right in that game?
Well, that was really it was really a phenomenal game. I mean, both teams really played well. It was a game where teams kept making plays to keep themselves in the game. Mm-hmm. Both Whitman and ourselves continued to just push the bar higher and higher as the game went on. And so it was really a phenomenal Division III game. I think anybody who saw it really appreciated the level of play that they saw. But for us, obviously handling their pressure is a key when you play them. Mm-hmm. They come after you the whole time, and our guys did a really good job. I don't know how many. I think we only had around 15 or 16 turnovers that game, and to go double overtime against them and take care of the ball like that is really a key.
The next game happened almost a week later. At this point, now you've jumped into the top 25 with some voters noting your win over Whitman, and you take on WashU. And it was a very different game. One, it didn't go overtime. Two, it was half the points. And three, it didn't go your way. It was a loss 66-62. So kind of in a juxtaposed what went wrong in that game.
Yeah, you could come up with a bunch of reasons, but at the end of the day, we got off to a very slow start in that game, and I think we had dug ourselves a 15 or 16 point hole midway through the first half, and then we finally got our legs and got going, and by around the 10-minute mark, I think it was a pretty even game, and then down the stretch, we just didn't manage to get the job done. We had some chances to grab that one, but unfortunately just didn't do what we had to do down the stretch.
Yeah, certainly came from behind. This is a young team. You've got two seniors on this squad. One's Daniel Rosenbaum, who's leading the way right now at 20.5 points a game. The other one's Corbin Koch, 8.7 points a game. Both of them are starters for you guys. Your leading rebounder, though, is a sophomore. Koch is your second leading rebounder. You've got a junior in the mix there at 19.5 points, almost 20 points a game, and Micah Elon. So this team's, is it ahead of the curve that you expected this year, or are Rosenbaum and Koch so important that to be at this level at this point in the season, or to get a big win over Whitman, or to play Wash U tight was almost expected?
I think it's more of the latter. I think going into the season, we were feeling good about things, but it's a fine line. Yeah. Mika Alan is playing very well as a junior for us at the point guard position, but this is his third year as a starter. Mm-hmm. Rosenbaum and Koch have been. I think Rosenbaum's been a 4-year starter. Koch maybe a 3 or 4-year starter. I think one of the pleasant surprises has been Alex Preston, our sophomore postman. He's come along probably a little bit more than we had anticipated. So that's been a nice boost for us. He's getting about 13 points and 6 or 7 boards a game, and so he maybe has been a pleasant surprise. But overall, I don't want to say we went into the Whitman game, thinking that was going to be a win for us, but we were feeling good about this group going into the season, and so far they've lived up to that.
Well, you have non-Division III, as we mentioned, Bethesda University tonight. Then you get back into your not only Division III schedule. You'll have UC Santa Cruz before the holiday break. Then after the holiday break, you'll take on Hardin-Simmons at home. You guys are a popular destination around Christmas for some teams, which you got to love to some degree. It doesn't waste your budget.
Right.
And then you get into conference play. So what are the expectations now moving forward? You've proven you can obviously play with the top dogs if everything goes right, but you've also shown that things can be a little challenging sometimes as well.
Yeah. Well, I think at this point in the season, it happens kind of quickly. It goes from early season where you're just trying to get better and grow and figure out your personality as a team to, all of a sudden you're in the mid to the meat of the season where you've got to be playing very consistently at a high level. So I think that's the key right now, is just trying to that place where we've gotten where we know we can play very good basketball, doing it regularly, consistently. And then, at this level, you have the challenge of the semester break. So, the guys take off for, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days and come back. And as a coach, there's a lot of anxiety during that time, but they need the break. They get away for a few days. They come back with a bounce in their step. And so we hope to finish strong in these next 2. Then we'll take a little break. And as you say, get back for, a long stretch of conference play.
I was going to say, you've got you were picked first in the preseason poll ahead of Occidental Chapman and Claremont Mudd Scripps, just at the top of the group. How important, though, is conference play? You guys know for sure it's win and get in, but now with a win over Whitman, you're kind of setting a little bit of an interesting table here. Should you guys be able to stay focused and stay on top of this conference?
Yeah, the whole national scene is kind of interesting. Out here in the West, we're sort of out here on an island and out of sight, out of mind. So, it's just interesting how all the rankings and comparisons and things shake down when you're kind of isolated from a lot of the Division III scene, and there's just not as much opportunity for folks to see you and compare you. So we always go into it thinking you win the league, you get postseason play. If you don't, who knows what happens. You can't plan on much.
Sure. The cat's out of the bag. You guys might have a good team. I think the Whitman game certainly showed us that. And let's point out, WashU was not a bad game. WashU's a good team. They're just not ranked. You guys have got a lot going into the holidays here that you can kind of hang your hat on right now, but you also got to make sure you're not resting on the laurels to some degree.
That's correct, and I think a lot of people are fighting that same battle. You have to every day. You got to get a little better. You got to stay hungry. You got to have something to prove, and so much of that relies on the character of your team and their desire. So I think we've got a pretty mature group that understands that next day is the most important one.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy getting ready for your game, so thank you. We wish you luck the rest of the season. I'm sure we'll be talking about the squad as we get further into SCIAC play. But as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
No, I just want to thank you for all you do for D3 Sports with Hoopsville, for all the awareness and information and excitement you create around our sport. It's absolutely great.
Well, Coach, I appreciate the kind words. Safe travels, good holidays, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you much, Dave.
Coach Katsiafikas joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. And once again, Coach joining us earlier today as they will play tonight against Bethesda University. Of course, non-Division III. And then a couple days from now, they'll take on UC Santa Cruz in Division III action. And then that game on the 29th is the one I'm most intrigued by. They will take on Hardin-Simmons in a game out at their place at the Reign Center. Well, the rest of us are at the D3Hoops.com Classic, but we'll try and keep an eye out for that one. I'm intrigued by Pomona Pitzer. I don't know what to put into it stock-wise. As he says, they're out on an island. Well, it's even harder for us because they're out on that island. We get a little bit more of teams heading out west that gives us some comparisons, but without risking going into what we were talking about earlier of direct comparison opponent. It gets a little hard, but that's where web streaming has certainly become a lot more popular and a lot nicer to use as well. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll switch gears, come all the way back to the East Coast, trying not to get jet lagged, and we'll talk to Ron Roan from Muhlenberg Women's Basketball. Once again in the mix in the Centennial Conference, no surprise. We'll talk to him about the success of the Mules. You'll listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. More Hoopsville when we return.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Thursday evening. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoops or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com or join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. All right, so we're switching gears, going from men's basketball to women's basketball, going from the West Coast to the East Coast, going from the SCIAC to the Centennial Conference. On the women's side, I see quite a bit of basketball in the Centennial Conference due to my extracurricular work. That helps pay the bills. And one team that you always know is going to be competitive year in and year out is the Muhlenberg Mules. They haven't lost more than 6 games in conference since we've been keeping track of it on D3Hoops.com, at least on our cheat board. They haven't lost less than 16 games. Really, to be honest, they're more of a 20-win team outside of, 3 seasons in the last 10, 12 or more seasons. Consistent. And we talked about on this show, yeah, they had their heyday with the system, but that was a long time in comparison to what they've been doing since. Ron Roan is at a program that is always at the top of the conference and always competitive. It is, considering how much else has been turned over in that conference, it says something. So we figured it's about high time that we got the man on the phone to talk about it. And Ron Roan joins us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Sir, thanks as always for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Absolutely. Another undefeated season at this point, 8-0. You guys are taking a little bit of time here before you play Moravian. Their last game was back on the 8th when you beat Swarthmore easily, 55-33. You've gotten off to a 3-0 start in conference, including a big win over Haverford on the road, 59-50. Is this how you expected the season to start?
Not really. I mean, to be honest with you. Last year we graduated 4 out of our 5 starters. 3 of those players, all league players, including an All-American point guard in Brandy Valley. So we figured this would be one of those 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of seasons where we would get better and better as the year went on. But so far we've sort of figured out a way to just, win the game that night. So, I'm very proud of this group and what they've done. But I really didn't know what to expect. We tried to not go into the season with very many expectations.
Well, you kind of hit it, though, there on the head in the sense that you guys have been consistent. Even when you lose talent, and you've lost some darn good talent over the years that have played with a Muhlenberg jersey on, and
Sure.
still somehow in the next year seemed like, not that the person was never there. That's certainly not a fair representation, but that you find a way to move on. Is this just another example of that?
Yeah, I think in some ways it is. We've sort of established a program, so it's more than just having a good team. And we have very unselfish players who are willing to come in and maybe for 1 or 2 years as a freshman and a sophomore, sort of pay their dues, work their way up the ladder, play ahead of behind experienced kids, and then they're ready to jump in and take over when the time comes. So we don't have the drop-off, I think, many years that people think we might have, because we see those players in practice every day for 1 or 2 years, and they don't. But this year, Brandy Valley graduated, I think, 6th all-time in Division III in assists.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel Plotke shot 47% from the three-point line. Chelsea Gary was a Defensive Player of the Year in the league. Chris Manning was just about as good a glue player as you could expect. But this year's team is a different team, much more athletic, can do more things on the floor defensively, though I don't think it is quite as good offensively as we've been the past few years. In the past, our team's really been built more around offense and defense. And, as I talked to you tonight, we're ranked number 1 in scoring defense in the country. I don't even know how that happened.
Well, it's 40.13 points a game versus offensively 61.6. The difference of 21.5 points is insane to begin with, but the fact that you're limiting teams so far to 40 points a game is pretty staggering. And again, it's decent teams. I wouldn't say you've gone through a gauntlet necessarily.
Sure.
And by the way, you're off to a 5-0 starting conference. I misspoke earlier.
Yeah.
But, you held Haverford to 50 points. You held who I think's a pretty good Washington College team to 37. And you held...
Yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah, no, they're not. So you guys are getting it done, certainly, maybe a little differently than we're used to.
Yeah, we played William Patterson in our Scotty Wood tournament, and they're always well coached and tough and physical and athletic. And I think we just, like I said, we're more athletic than we've been, we're quicker than we've been, we're longer than we've been, which is sort of led us to being a good defensive team. We really thought our defense would sort of spark our offense and get us out in transition, and that hasn't happened as much as we would like it to happen. But we've just had stretches in games this year where we've just clamped down on people and not allowed them to score. And you know what happens? Then your team starts getting confidence. They sort of develop a personality, and they start believing they can do it. And that's what's happened to this team.
The one thing I would say is, while you may not have broken out and transitioned necessarily with that defense, and you talk about the confidence, the fact that you don't, it takes pressure away from the offense. If you miss a shot, it's not the end of the world. If you don't have the best offensive possession, it's not the end of the world, because your team probably has its confidence that they can go down the other end of the court and take care of business there and not make it a real big deal.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We sort of have a feeling right now that if we can figure out a way to score 55, 60 points, we've got a good chance to win that game. And our defense has been good as far as stopping people. It's not. We don't have the kind of team that's just holding the ball for 30 seconds every possession, and that's why our defensive numbers are good. We tend to press, play full court, run in transition. We just defended well. I mean, there's no other way to get around it. Is we've turned people over and we've held people down to poor shooting percentage. I think our three-point shooting percentage defense is something like a ridiculous 17% a game because people aren't getting many open looks. So, like I said, I'm proud of this team. But, again, this is a group of kids that have played defense against those seniors we talked about. They defended them every day for 2 or 3 years. So they played some pretty good offensive players in practice every day for a few years, and I think that's really helped them going into the season.
18.4 points to be exact. It's a staggering number. You've only allowed 27 made threes the entire season in 8 games so far. Says a lot. And just jokingly, because you and I go way back, this is a far cry from the system days.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. You know, one of the funny things is we came into the year really working on running the old system kind of press.
Okay.
And we have done that a lot, but we haven't given up a lot of the layups off of it, you know, which anybody who runs the system would say, then you're not running the Grinnell press if you're not giving up layups. You know, but we've done it well enough to sort of throw teams off. We played some 1-3-1. We've played some 2-3. We've played some man-to-man. We've had some full-court pressure. We've sort of been trying to find what we're good at. And I think in some ways, with us experimenting to find out what we're good at, we've confused a lot of other teams, to be honest with you.
Well, to be honest, I'd say keep it going. If your team is good enough to play all of those systems and it's working to the tune of 40 points a game, I'd stick with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got now. You know, we're in exams right now.
Sure.
We got Moravian on Saturday. We got the Sales on Tuesday.
Right.
I mean, those teams can put points on the board.
Well,
so I don't know that the average is going to hold up that long, but hopefully we can hold them below 60.
We'll get those opponents in a moment. I want to go back to the team. 6 seniors. You talked about what you lost last year, and you talk about players, you know, kind of taking a step back. You've got another 6 seniors who are on the docket this year, but you've got a deep team. There's a whole mess of juniors, a whole mess of sophomores and freshmen. But again, it's that turnover. It's that churn that you guys now have. And I get the feeling that the class, when they become juniors and seniors, start to relish the opportunity to step out in front.
There's no doubt about it. They sort of feel, hey, this is my turn. I paid my dues. And, again, as you mentioned, we have a tradition of winning over the past 10, 15 years. And I think every class, when they become juniors and seniors, they don't want to be the class that breaks that tradition. They don't want to be the team that doesn't win. So they're ready to step forward. And by the time they move up to be juniors and seniors, as many of the kids who are playing minutes for us now do, they know what it's like to sacrifice for the team because they haven't gone from that high school star to that college star immediately. So everybody fits into the team concept pretty well.
Kind of hit where I was going next is, you know, these players come out of high school. To some degree, they're stars. Yeah, maybe not against some D1 players, but there's still a lot of good Division III players who are stars in their high schools. How do you?
If they weren't good, we wouldn't recruit them, right?
That's true. So how do you get them to understand you're no longer the star? I need you to understand you're going to sit the bench, or you're going to have limited minutes, or you're going to have to practice against the top squad. And when does that conversation first start?
Well, truthfully, I think a lot of that is taken care of during the recruiting process, at least at Muhlenberg, where we're telling kids, hey, we're going to play the best players. We're going to play the players who give us the best chance to win. But it is easier for someone who's been in your system 2 years to make that contribution to somebody who's brand new and hasn't run our offenses or defenses before. And explaining to the players there's no promise of playing time, there's no promise of role until you've earned that. And I think sometimes there might be some players we scare away in the recruiting process because we're not willing to promise them the moon as a high school player. And so I think we get the kids who are more team-oriented, who want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And if they just want to put up big numbers and play major minutes immediately, maybe they pick another school instead of Muhlenberg to start with.
Sure. Another scary thing about your team is there's nobody in double figures points wise.
Yeah,
your leading scorer is Carly Hamilton at 8.8. Ron.
Yeah, believe me, I know. I mean, it's that double-edged sword in a close game. Who do you call a play for? But if you're the opponent, who's he going to call a play for?
Right.
You know, we basically have a philosophy this year. You know, in the past, we'd set up an ISO for Brandy Valet to go to the basket or a three-point shot for Rachel Plocky. We all knew what we were going to do. But this year, it's, hey, whoever's open, that's the kid with the best shot. Plus, you reference the system. We've been playing anywhere from 12 to 13 deep, even when the game is close and on the line, because we are expending so much energy on defense, even if it's more of the half-court variety. So, there isn't anybody out there to all the time to get 30, 35 minutes to put up big numbers.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I think that's the answer to that question.
Sure.
At this point. Plus, it's sort of who's the hot hand that night. We've had several people. Carly's gone for 16 one night, and Nye Thomas goes for 13, 14 another night. Different people at different times, I guess. And it's a team with a great team atmosphere. The chemistry on this team is really, really good. Because I don't think there's anybody doing anything who has a big ego. And that makes it easier for everybody to share the pie, so to speak.
Sure. Talking about the teams ahead of you, you have Moravian and then DeSales, and you're looking at Moravian's schedule, and they have lost, which is twice. They've lost badly.
Yep.
99-58 to aforementioned DeSales and 80-56 to TCNJ, but otherwise they have games where they put up 93 points. There's games they put up 50 points. They're all over the place. And DeSales started off like a rocket this season with some huge wins, including that Moravian game we talked about, a close loss to Scranton, a surprising loss to Sage, but then they just held Kings to 43 and put an 84 spot on them. Yeah, these are two tough teams, and you mentioned you're in the middle of finals. How do you keep everybody focused without them losing focus of academics or being overwhelmed?
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer is you don't. I've got like 1/3 of my team is pre-med. Other kids are double majors. They're focused on the academics. We try to get them out there to play some basketball for an hour and 15 minutes after exams just to stay in shape. But you can look in their eyes and they're in another place, which we understand because that's where they're supposed to be. So you really don't. You just sort of try to use basketball maybe as a little bit of a mental break for all they're going through with exams, and then hopefully keep their bodies somewhat in shape. And then, we do our best when we get to this weekend. The other thing about those two opponents, and Moravian and DeSales are really good. I've watched both of them. I mean, DeSales is really, really good.
Yeah.
They're both local rivals, too. They're both 10 minutes from our campus.
Right.
So the intensity of that rivalry and schools wanting to beat each other, it doesn't matter. It's one of those rivalry games where it doesn't matter the records. Everybody's going to scratch each other's eyes out regardless. So, it's that part of the year. That's part of what we do. And one of the things I've learned, though, from these games after exams is you don't put too much stock in whether you play well or not, because it's not a good barometer of where your team's at. So try not to overreact by what does happen.
Yeah, that makes some sense. After that, you'll take a somewhat, a 2.5 week break or so. And then you go right into the gauntlet of the conference if it hadn't been hard enough. You'll travel to Gettysburg. You'll then travel to McDaniel, and that's a tongue-in-cheek comment about that being a gauntlet, because, one, McDaniel's a little different this year, but two, you haven't had the best of luck going to McDaniel when it comes to buses.
That's true.
They have broken down at, I think, 3 times trying to go or come from them in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, we've had things where for some reason that's happened to us. But one year it took us 3 different buses to get there and home.
Yeah, I do remember.
I don't know what we're going to do. Take a different route, different bus company. We might go back to the old AAU days, just carpool that one.
I think you did get carpooled from a bus back to McDaniel on one of those occasions.
We did. My hat off. We're about 10 minutes out of McDaniel coming home on one of those January days where it was 10 below zero.
Yeah.
And we broke down the side of the road, and we called back to McDaniel, and God bless the McDaniel people. They put together like about 7 different people in cars and vans to come get us and let us sit out in their warm gym until a bus came.
If I had been 10, 15 minutes later leaving that place, I probably would have been one of them.
You probably drove by us, laughed, and waved. Is probably what you really would have done.
No, admittedly, I was out ahead of you. I was admittedly out ahead of you, but I would have stopped and at least laughed.
Yeah, but that doesn't. And let's face it, over the years, we've had some great rivalry games with McDaniel.
Yeah.
So that's never an easy place to play.
No.
And that's the way the Centennial Conference is overall.
Yeah.
There's very few games you can count on, regardless of who the favorite is, because you're playing so many league games. It does wear you down a bit over the course of 3 months.
Well, and that first trio will start with an at-home game at least against Hopkins, but then again, you're tied with Gettysburg atop the conference. Hopkins is a game back. Haverford and Ursinus, shockingly enough, are a game and a half back. This was expected to be a battle. It's proving it's going to be a battle. Gettysburg's going to be coming back from Vegas, where they will have had some good tests. Do you get concerned when you don't take a trip around the holidays that other teams are going to come in a little fresher for a game like Gettysburg?
Yeah, well, I'm a coach, man. I get paid to worry and concern about everything. You know what I mean? Like, what do the kids eat for dinner, Thursday? You worry about. But I mean, since I've been, I came to Muhlenberg in 2001 from Division I.
Right.
I was rarely home for Thanksgiving. I was rarely home for Christmas because you always played and traveled at that time of year. So since I came to Muhlenberg, we really have not done anything during either of the holidays so our kids get a break. I think it hurts us a little bit in that first week or two back in January, but I think the benefits of the kids getting some good quality family time at home and a little bit of mental refresh, I think it helps us when we get to February because they're not as worn down, and I think that showed in our postseason success.
Well, fair point. That is true. You guys have certainly been successful and obviously aiming for another postseason this year, but it'll be a battle in the Centennial Conference yet again. Sir, I appreciate the time as always. Great understanding of what your team is this year, and furthermore, thanks for the laugh. I just do get a chuckle out of that bus story.
Oh, man.
As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, Dave, I know you understand, but I'll say this to everybody else out there. This holiday season, my best to everybody, but a special wish for the best to one of our coaching colleagues, Becky Martin at McDaniel, who's battling some health issues and everything at this point. And, Coach, if you're listening, we know you're way too tough to let anything get the best of you. So know that we're all with you and behind you. Good luck.
You said that well, sir. Very well put. Very well said. Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you, sir. Enjoy it, and I'll look forward to seeing you in early January.
Well, I'll tell you what, if our bus breaks down along the way, I got your cell number now.
Yes, you do. Give me a ring. I'll do my best.
All right, Dave. Have a good night.
Take care. Ron Roan joining us on the Hoopsville hotline out of Muhlenberg. By the way, 436 career victories on his docket, 356 of them coming at Muhlenberg in his 18th career season there. Nice note he said there about Becky Martin. We talked about Becky way at the beginning of the season. I've had the opportunity to see her, at every single McDaniel home game so far. It has been wonderful to see her. I hope we get to see her when Muhlenberg comes to McDaniel, which reminds me, I don't even remember if I'm even going to be at that game now that I think about it. Every once in a while there's some crossover, which precludes me from being able to get to a game that I'd really like to be at, if that makes any sense. I will be at that. How about that? Awesome. So I'll look forward to seeing those guys when they come to town. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll still talk women's basketball, but we'll switch gears to one of the top teams in the country and talk to one of their players. Madison Temple from Thomas More joins us. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go there, take it.
I equate my reputation to others perceive you. Character is what you are.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this Thursday night show. If you got questions for us, you know the routine, at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Adam says, let's talk about how great Marietta men are playing. And then he replied, I said, we had him on the last show. Where were you? Adam, they are playing very well. We'll talk a little bit about them in a bit. Jay Cozen says, I'm not sure that my eyes can unsee what I just watched. Dickinson has 12 points at the half and trail Lancaster Bible 22-12. Men or women, Jay, either way, that's got to be tough. I'll freely admit. Not the easiest way to do things. You talked to Thomas More yet, Dave? No, Andrew. Guess what? We're going to talk about him now. Thomas More women's basketball having an interesting year. Their final year in Division III. They're not in a conference. Technically, they're in the AMCC conference, but they're not in the old pack. But they're off to an 11-0 start, and because of that lack of conference, they have a ton of games being squeezed in as tightly as possible. Let's give you a sense of what they did. They started the season back in November at Wheaton, and then 5 days later were at home for a couple of games, or at home for one game against non-Division III Midway. Then they traveled to Center to play Covenant and Meredith. That was all in the first 6 days of the season. Then fast forward to the 24th and the 25th, where they were at home against Maryville and LaRoche. And then they traveled to Whitewater on the 1st of December, at Chicago the 3rd of December, at Marietta the 5th of December, then flew out to the West Coast, played Whitworth on the 7th, Whitman on the 8th. Believe it or not, we haven't talked about a loss yet. Now they're traveling to Holland, Michigan to go to Hope, where they'll play Baldwin Wallace tomorrow, and then either Hope or Finlandia, we're probably figuring Hope, on Saturday. Then they come home. Nope, I'm wrong. They go to Miami, Florida. They'll play Wesleyan and then Cal Lutheran. Then take a Christmas break, head to Indiana, where they'll play Franklin at the DePaul Invitational. Then one more game before they finally return home and play Center on the 30th. That's 28th, 29th, and 30th. And then they got games on the 2nd and 3rd, 5th, and 7th of January before they finally can take a deep breath. I'm pretty sure I just scared our guest on the Hoopsville hotline because I wanted to get a point of view on all of this. joining us to talk about it is probably one of the best players in Division III women's basketball this season. Madison Temple, the senior guard, joins us. And Madison, I really hope I didn't just scare the living daylights out of you with that schedule.
Oh, no, of course not. We've been prepared for this.
Yeah, I was going to say, what I just said is no surprise to you guys.
Yeah.
I got to know, when Coach presented the schedule to you, and I don't know when you would have seen it, I'm curious what your first reaction was.
Wow. All the traveling was very different, but we're excited for it. We're excited to play against some of the top teams in the nation. It's different. It's nothing we've done before.
Yeah.
So we're just been trying to get ready for it.
To some degree, it is an interesting advantage for you because you do go out and get to play some of the best teams in Division III, or at least some pretty competitive teams, because you don't have a conference schedule weighing you down and taking 3/4 of your season away. So you can go play a Wheaton, and you can play a Whitewater, Chicago, Marietta, Whitman, and Whitworth. You can play Hope and Baldwin-Wallace and all these other squads. So it's to some degree that has to be a little bit fun.
Right, it is, and it definitely helps our strength of schedule and helps us just prepare a lot more before we even get to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, the strength of schedule numbers certainly should be interesting, though the backside of the season is full of some non-Division threes, but no big deal there. But yeah, you've got a lot of good teams at the beginning of it. That said, the travel, you've squeezed a lot of games in already. You still got some more games to squeeze in the next couple of weeks. Just on the travel alone, we'll get to all the extra peripherals with it, but the travel alone, how have you been able to, as a team and as an individual, almost pace yourself?
I mean, it's tough. It's nice that we're traveling these places and we're getting usually like 2 games out of it. It's not like we're traveling a far distance just to play 1 game. Definitely traveling up the day of is the toughest part of it. So when we played like Marietta last week, just sitting in a van all day and then playing them that night was tough, especially during that stretch, the 5 games in 8 days in 3 different time zones.
True.
That's tough, but we've been working hard in practice as much as we can, and everyone is staying focused pretty well. I mean, it's hard it being around exam time, and we just finished our exams this week, but we've just been staying focused because we know every game is a big game for us.
I'll get to the exams in a moment. When you went to the West Coast, did you guys stay on the East Coast time?
What do you mean?
In other words, did you allow yourself to slide into what the time said it was on the West Coast, or did you try and keep your clocks at what you were comfortable with back home?
We tried to get adjusted to the times out there.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
There's lots of different points of view on what works, so that's why I was kind of curious. Again, you're on your way. We should be pointing out, we're talking to you on the bus as you're driving to Holland, Michigan here, and to take on Baldwin-Wallace tomorrow. And again, as you said, 2 games in 2 days. Hope or Finlandia following that. Then 4 days later, you'll fly to Miami. And by the way, I feel horrible that you're going to Miami to take on Wesleyan and Cal Lutheran before the Christmas holidays. You've at least got a chance to see a lot of different parts of the country. Are you at least accumulating some frequent flyer miles, maybe some points at hotels? Is something at least working out in your benefit here?
I hope so. We're experiencing lots of different weather. We just came back from Washington. Now we're going to be in Michigan, and then we go to the sunny side in Miami. So
it's true. And from literally one corner of the United States to the other, with a few stops in between. What were the expectations, though, going into this? Did you want to keep sure you held the expectation of undefeated or no losses or whatever you want to call it? Or did you expect that, this is a grueling gauntlet. We may take our lumps, like 1 or 2 here, but we got to keep going?
Yeah, I definitely feel like we went into this knowing how tough our schedule is, and it not being something that we've done before. I think everyone understands that, sometimes there might be a slip-up or something may happen, but you just got to work through it. But we still kept that same mindset that, our goal is to win every game. And we've been working in practice just to make sure that we don't have the slip-ups so that we don't have to worry about that.
Talking to Madison Temple here, the senior guard for the Saints of Thomas More. She averages 24 points a game to lead her team. You are the all-everything on this squad to some degree. Everyone's got their eye on you defensively, and everyone's got their eye on you offensively as well. How hard is it to know you're going to take the best that the other team's going to throw at you at any given time to add into what has been a difficult schedule?
I mean, it's tough losing some of the people that we lost last year, and but we've had a lot of players step up this year, younger players and even some of our older players. And so I don't really go out there and worry too much about how they're going to play me defensively or anything, because even if I can't score or can't get to the basket maybe as easily as I'm used to, I know that my other teammates are going to be able to knock down shots, and I can still produce on the defensive end, or, you know, get some assists and get some people some baskets, set them up on offense if I can't score. So
shooting 65% from the floor, by the way, is a little ridiculous. 50% from beyond the arc, though. You're going to take a lot of shots out there. 87% from the free throw line, while averaging 6.5 rebounds a game. This is for everybody else. You know this. 5.5, almost 6 assists a game, I should add, plus 4 steals a game. Is there anything, Madison, you don't do during a game?
Try not to. Try to do it all.
Okay. Well, that's fair. At least that's your goal. I get it. So curious, though, with that said, 24 points a game, 8, almost 7 rebounds a game, 6 assists a game, 4 steals a game. What do you think is the biggest weakness in your game?
I would say turnovers sometimes, depending kind of who we're playing and how fast-paced the game is. I like to push the ball as much as I can, and me starting as point guard this year, just a different role. Sometimes I, throw too many long passes or something that might get picked off. So I try to take care of the ball. I've been trying lately to take care of the ball a little bit better. Another one would just be offensive rebounding, I think, because sometimes I like to stay back and be a safety instead of crashing the boards.
Okay.
So.
Well, we shouldn't point out that she leads the team in turnovers at 2.3, but it's okay, Madison. It's totally fine. All right, so let's go back to the educational component of this. You talked about around exams. Exams are now done, but if I understand what your schedule was in terms of exams, you were traveling and also playing games during that period of time. Most of it occurring during that run when you played between the 1st and the 8th, Whitewater, Chicago, Marietta, Whitworth, Whitman. How did you guys deal with having to prepare for exams for starters, but then also try and deal with exam schedules while you were going to be on the road?
Yeah, well, this past week has been our exam week. So we missed, the week before exams, which is a lot of just reviews or just the last minute, projects, things like that. So, everyone definitely brought their homework with them when we went to Wisconsin and Chicago and Marietta, and everyone tried to stay on top of things as much as they could. We didn't really miss much class for that, which was nice. So everyone, this whole week has been, we didn't have a game since last Saturday, so that's been nice, so that we can focus on exams a little bit.
A little different for you guys. How much has the school and or your professors been supportive of all this?
Oh, they're extremely supportive. We get emails as soon as we get back from tournaments and stuff. Emails from teachers. Some of them I haven't even had as a teacher. Will email us just to congratulate us. They'll send an email out to the whole team, and we have some teachers that will write us little letters or just send their congratulations to us.
All right, so to look ahead, by the time you're done with your game at Mary Hardin-Baylor, by the way, we should mention they're going to be in Texas as well later this season, 5th and 7th against Texas Dallas and Mary Hardin-Baylor, who are turning into 2 very good teams themselves. After that, you will have a total of probably 5 games left on your schedule. You will have about 3 weeks before you play Geneva and St. Vincent, and then you're going to have a couple of weeks before you play Miami-Hamilton, and then you're going to have a few weeks before you play in the ACAA tournament. How are you may not be thinking about it, and I can appreciate that, but how are you mentally preparing for what will be the polar opposite of what you're doing now, and considering heading into what will probably be an NCAA tournament, visit, not playing a lot of basketball?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't really thought that much into it just because we're focusing right now on the big games that are until we get that deep breath that you were talking about.
Yeah.
But it's tough. We had my freshman year when we won the semifinal game. We had to wait 3 weeks till we played that championship game, and that was probably just the toughest thing was just waiting, because we were also like ready to get there, but at the same time it was just such a long break that we weren't used to playing and getting up and down the floor as much as we had hoped. So it definitely affected, I think, how we played in our championship game. But it's just a big mental thing, and we just gotta make sure that we're still pushing each other in practice like we did this whole part of the season. That was just the grueling part. Everyone's just gotta stay focused, I think, until we get to that NCAA tournament.
It's almost gonna be like preseason all over again, where it's
Right.
all you see is your teammates and your teammates and some more of your teammates. I'm sure you'll be sick of your teammates by the end of it. Madison, I appreciate the time coming on and talking about what you guys have been facing and what you will face ahead. It's circumstances may be interesting. They got you guys in this spot, but you guys are certainly holding your heads high and playing incredibly great basketball in the meantime. Congratulations so far. Congratulations on getting through finals week, especially. And I appreciate you taking the time. We have a tradition on this show. We always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Nope. Everyone can tune in tomorrow when we play Baldwin Wallace and Hope.
Yeah, very good. I actually have a Hope fan who wanted to make sure to say good luck to you guys, and he was being serious.
Thank you.
He's wishing you luck.
Good.
And well, I'm going to be tuning in. I can tell you that much. Good luck. And again, maybe we should have gotten you some special passports so you could have gotten different stamps to every place you guys had visited this year. That's just nuts. Hey, Madison, thanks for the time. Take care of yourself. Happy holidays. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. You too.
Absolutely. Madison Temple joining us, senior guard from Thomas More. Again, leads the team in scoring. Was she leading the team in rebounds? I forgot to check that one. She is leading the team in rebounds, leading the team in assists, leading the team in turnovers, leading the team in steals. She's leading the team in every single category. It's pretty darn impressive. They are, again, on the road. They are on their way to Holland, Michigan. They'll play Baldwin Wallace on Friday, play the winner of the Hope Finlandia game, or loser, whichever the case may be. They play Hope or Finlandia Saturday. Then 4 days later, they're in Miami, Florida to play Wesleyan, followed the next day by Cal Lutheran. Then 8 days later, after Christmas, they'll be at DePaul, take on Franklin, and then somebody else the next day. And then the following day against Center. 3 days later against Pikesville, and the next day against Lindsey Wilson. 2 days later in Texas against Texas Dallas, Maryland Baylor. That wraps things up on January 7th, where they'll get their first extended break of the year. Absolutely crazy, and appreciate her taking the time to talk about it. I'm winded thinking about it. We'll take another break. When we come back, answer a couple of your quick questions before we take another break. Coming up still, University of Wisconsin Oshkosh head coach Matt Lewis will join us. The interim head coach will join us to talk about things. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
I coined my definition of success in 1934. My definition
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Thursday evening. Quick segment here before we take another break and get Oshkosh on the show. Andrew was asking us to talk about Platteville again. Platteville's good. They're 5-3. I don't think that 5-3 is telling us the whole story, though I'm certainly a little perplexed at that 5-3. They just lost yet again, this time to Wheaton. Now, Wheaton's good. The Wheaton's got some weird losses in there, too. But Platteville lost by 22, 99-77. Platteville takes on Hope this weekend in men's basketball. It'll be fascinating to see how that works out. That game is at Hope, somehow muscled around the Hope tournament. Hope is hosting a bunch of games this weekend is what that all means. Because Hope is playing Friday, Saturday in women's basketball. So Hope men's game against Platteville. It's worth tuning into, to be sure. By the way, scores from around the country, checking them out. Number 20, Loris is in action tonight against Buena Vista. That game has not started. MIT, the number 18 in the 8 team in the country in men's basketball, is taking on Bridgewater State tonight. And late in the game, they've got an easy lead by 25, 79-54. Trying to see if there's any other games jumping out at me. The Dickinson game, I think that we were talking about, where Dickinson only scored 12 points in the first half. Well, it's the second half. They've exploded for 24 and now have the lead on Lancaster Bible 36-31. So somebody at Dickinson finally woke up. In women's basketball, St. Joseph's of Maine got past Maine Farmington easily, 92-48. East Texas Baptist is apparently playing Laterno tonight, but we've got a TBA in for game time. I'm not exactly sure. We'll double check when that game may be taking place. Denison and Heidelberg are currently playing late in that contest. Austin beat Hardin-Simmons in women's basketball as Austin continues to play really good basketball down there in Texas, along with Mary Hardin-Baylor and Texas Dallas. And don't forget, there's Trinity, Texas, too, down in Texas. There's a really fascinating scenario building on the women's side down in Texas, especially in the South region this year. I think the South region is going to be a little deeper than we're used to because, again, you loop in the ODAC, and you've got what should be a really good Emory and Henry squad continuing. Randolph-Macon, you figure, will continue to be good. That South region is going to be fascinating when it comes time for regional rankings and the like this year. Do I think Bowdoin will lose? No. Well, they're not playing this week. Do I think they're going to lose at some point this season? Yes. They got to take on Amherst. Amherst might be ticked. Now, that game's at Bowdoin, so Bowdoin might get the advantage there. But yeah, I don't think we have an undefeated women's team. Well, Thomas More might be undefeated. Oh, that one's tough. I don't see Hope getting through the season without taking a blemish. St. Thomas, I would figure will take a loss in conference. By the way, I heard a fascinating point of reference in regarding the MIAC. I've always thought I couldn't understand why the men on the MIAC side wouldn't go to what the women are doing, which is I call the ODAC model, which is this offset scheduling where you play double games, double round robins against maybe half the conference, and the other half of the conference you play single games against, and it rotates except for your rivals. And the men's side, they won't do it. They've got, about 5 games in conference or out of conference they can play. Women's side went to it, which allows them more games out of conference. Well, guess what happens next year? Probably not what you're expecting. Women will go back to the double round robin, which will leave them, I think, 2 or 3 non-conference games in the MIAC. Here's why that is a major problem, in my opinion. The MIAC, especially in women's basketball, has gotten better and better and better in the last few years. They've gotten some extra teams into the tournament as a result of it, and rightly so. This will kill that. The double round robin will kill that because the SOS numbers will not be good enough to get extra bids in, especially if you take losses in conference. The MIAC is going in the wrong direction with their scheduling, and I don't know why. I can suspect, but I don't know why. The men need to go an offset. The women need to stay with their offset. The fact that they're not is mind-blowing. But again, back to the point, I think Thomas More, I suspect will take a loss. Thomas More, I think, is going to take a loss just because it's a grind at some point. And granted, I thought the loss would come against Whitman or Whitworth, primarily Whitman, because of the travel out there to play. And then I could see them getting tripped up on the way back. Now, they could lose this weekend. They could lose in DePaul. They could lose in Texas. Texas is turning into a beast of a weekend because of how good Mary Hardin-Baylor and Texas Dallas are. Maybe Thomas More doesn't lose, but I have a feeling I don't think anybody's undefeated going into the NCAA tournament on the women's side. Is Trine good? Yes, Trine is very good. They may have had a coaching change, but they're good. They're darn good. Back to the Marietta men's basketball. They're good. They're very good. Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of very good teams out there these days, and we've just talked about a bunch of them. On that note, we'll take another break. When we come back, we'll talk about one of those very good teams, the Oshkosh men's basketball team, who, despite finishing runner-up, still had a coaching change in the offseason, and they're still playing well. We'll figure out what it all means in the grand scheme of things. You are listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. We'll be back with more after this.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault
in any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
to stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. If you got any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at D3Hoops.com or join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. There was something else I was going to bring up in conversation that I forgot that hopefully we'll get to the end of the show. A reminder, if you got questions for us, you can tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at D3Hoops.com or join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. We'll keep an eye on some scores, but really nothing jumping out at us right now as to being earth-shaking. Don't forget, Sunday we'll be on the air at 7 o'clock Eastern Time as well, and we're figuring out what we're going to do with the final week of the season. If we'll have a show, it'll be on the 20th. We may do a midday one just to kind of go with the flow and get out of Dodge, as it were. Not that we're leaving anywhere, but just, take advantage of the opportunity that some of you may be on the road as well. All right, so let's talk about our next guest, and this has to do with a program that not only finished national runner-up last season, with an impressive 25-8 record. But they also ended up changing coaches in the offseason due to their head coach taking the WashU job. Went with an interim head coach and are playing pretty good basketball, and again are one of those foes that Wheaton has somehow knocked off. Joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is the interim head coach of the 6th-ranked Titans of Oshkosh. It is Matt Lewis. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you having me on tonight.
Absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time. I will say this, assuming that you keep this job and the interim tag is removed, this WIAC conference is getting younger and younger in the coaching ranks, is it not?
It is. It's these positions don't turn over very often,
no.
And I think we're getting to that time where some of them are turning over.
Yes, I would agree. Certainly, that's what it seems like. Back to the point at hand. This team goes all the way to the national championship game last year. Loses in a good game. It was a thriller. We saw everybody coming back. We saw, amongst everybody else, Nebraska brought everyone back. Whitman brought everybody back. You guys brought everybody back. Springfield. We can go through the list of teams that pretty much brought everybody back. The only difference was you guys brought back not Pat Yuckham as he moved on to WashU. I'm kind of curious how that all kind of played out from your vantage point, and whether you were surprised or not.
Sure. I had an inkling when that thing opened that it might be a job that he would be involved in. And he kept me in the loop as we kind of went through the process. But Pat was heavily invested here. He was not ever looking for another job or another opportunity. And so when they contacted him and he was involved in it, he did a good job of just kind of keeping me in the loop. But we just operated like this was going to go forward the way it had been going for 6 years. So eventually when he decided to go that route, there was a little, kind of 1 week or 2 week overlap there where we were trying to decide what we could do here at Oshkosh. But Pat was great. He handled it the right way and kept me in the loop. And so it made it an easier transition for me.
You kind of figured you'd get the interim job. It seemed maybe a little too late to open up a full-fledged search at a state school.
It is a process, no doubt. So if they had opened it up this spring, you're talking a 2.5, 3 month process in the state system, the different hoops that you have to jump through. And our athletic director, Daryl Sims, is great. And he decided that the best thing for our program, given how many guys we had coming back and the quality of those guys, that the best thing was to give me a shot at it. And it did allow us to jump right into that off season. There wasn't any hesitancy in terms of our guys, what we're going to do, how we're going to handle ourselves. So it really allowed us to have a nice continuity going into that off season.
So the team's out to a pretty good start. Granted, the second game of the season, you ran into this team called Wheaton, who apparently has not gotten the memo this season. When they play top 25 teams, they like to knock them off. And they beat you guys in a thriller, 86-74. I'll even admit I kind of looked at that game and went, okay, maybe Oshkosh isn't who I thought they were. I know it was 2 games in, but I also thought maybe I didn't know who Wheaton was, let's be honest. Since then, you've won 6 straight, and you've won them in pretty dominating fashion over Edgewood, North Park, Elmhurst, Finlandia, Alma, and even Calvin. Is it hard to shake off a tough loss, and how did you guys do it?
Yeah, it happens so early. Obviously, every game in Division III matters. You need to rack up as many wins as you can, but that happened on the second day of our schedule. And so we talked immediately in the locker room. That game isn't going to define what our season is this year. If we play the type of basketball that we think we can play going forward, we're not even going to remember that game at Wheaton. And they played a great game, and Francis had a tremendous night. But the last few weeks for us, it's just been recommitting to the defensive end. And we don't think we were where we were needed to be that first weekend in terms of defending. And our guys have done a great job of buying in on that end. I think it's shown in the results of some of our games.
You've got 3 seniors on this squad, which is probably the scary part because you've got so many players underneath those seniors in terms of underclassmen who will be contributing to this program for years to come. But, of course, 2 of those 3 are Ben Boots and Brett Wichgow, who are 2 of the 4 guys in double figures. But currently you're led by 2 juniors in Jack Flynn and Adam Favorite. Can you give me a sense of the dichotomy of this team, of what, the senior leadership, obviously, in guys like Boots and Wichgow, and not to, certainly dismiss Van Dyke, but also the underclassmen role with this program?
Yeah, sure. To start with, just our seniors, Ben, Brett, and Alex, those guys have done a tremendous job for, seemingly years now. It feels like we have Boots on a veteran contract, and hopefully we can sign him to one. But Ben and Brett in particular have done a phenomenal job of leading our program the last few years. And we had some guys prior to them that really helped us flip the culture and get it going the right direction. And Ben and Brett, assisted by Alex, have really taken it to another level. And so we're going to miss those guys, no doubt. But the nice thing is we've got a number of young guys that are learning from Ben and Brett on a daily basis. This is how we conduct ourselves. And you mentioned, Jack and Adam, and those 2 are pretty special, but we've got a variety of underclassmen that some haven't even gotten the chance to play yet, and those guys just continue to develop. And we've got a culture now where it's not about the individual. We're just trying to get guys to buy in each and every day, and hopefully that they do. And if their time comes, they don't know when their time comes, but when it does, hopefully the younger guys are ready to go. But those upperclassmen have done a great job of leading us so far.
Is there pressure to return to what you guys did last year? Is there pressure that, it's Final Four or bust to some degree?
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't lie to you. There's outside voices that talk about, we're going back to the national championship, or you run into people and, you have so much back, you're going to the Final Four. So there are people that try and talk to you about that, but we talk to our guys about climbing the mountain and getting to the top. Everybody wants to be at the top, but all the joy and the happiness is climbing up there. So we're not trying to worry about March. If we're fortunate and we get to play in March, that's great, and we'll see what happens. But we've got to enjoy each and every day. So today we're in the middle of finals week, and we just challenged our guys each day that we practice. Just bring it. Let's enjoy today and get better. And tomorrow we have a chance to play. Well, let's go bring it. Let's enjoy tomorrow. But we try not to get caught up in this. We have to go to the Final Four or have to go to the national championship, because if that doesn't happen, the season's not a loss. I mean, we can still enjoy and have a lot of success this year, even if that doesn't happen.
When you look at what you just talked about, the exam period, and kind of the theme we've been talking about tonight is the focus on that, the focus on the fact that this is academics, or these guys aren't back on the squad next semester, to be blunt. How do you guys balance that with the expectations of what they need to do academically? Granted, you haven't played since the 8th, so clearly taking the time to let them focus.
Yep. For us, it's the academic piece is first, and that's going to be true for a majority of the people at our level. We just try and manage. Is Wednesday a really busy day in finals week? Okay, maybe we don't practice quite as long on Tuesday. For us, Thursday was really busy. Today was the busiest day for a lot of guys. So yesterday we went really short. A lot of guys are done now. I know only a few guys have finals tomorrow. So today we're able to be in more of a regular routine in terms of practice. But for us, it's if you have some class obligation, an academic obligation, that is first. Go and take care of that. And what we found over the last few years is if guys are organized and doing well off the floor in the classroom, then they just excel better on the floor. If the house is out of order off the court, it's tougher to win on the floor. So let's take care of the academic piece first.
Makes sense. You got 3 non-conference games before you get neck deep in the WIAC. You're at Lawrence coming up here on Saturday or tomorrow.
Yep.
And then you're at St. Norbert early next week, or at home against St. Norbert early next week. Take the Christmas holiday, and then you play Concordia, Wisconsin just before the new year. Then we get into conference play, and you'll start things off at home against Platteville. How important are these 3 games ahead of that conference schedule?
Yeah, we got to keep getting better, and we got to keep winning games. Every game matters in the eyes of the committee. When we get to the end, it all matters the same. And so we talk about we got to win the next one on the schedule. And tomorrow, that's the biggest game of the year, as the cliche goes. And it is. It's a big game. They're 30 minutes down the road from us, and they're going to be riled up and ready to go. And so we got to show up ready to compete and play Titan basketball. But we got to continue to get better, because we do know what's coming. I mean, when you get to the WIAC, you could lose any night. You could play really well on a Wednesday and think you're in a good place, and on Saturday you could get humbled pretty quick. So we gotta continue to get better, so we're in a good place come January 2nd.
Speaking of the conference, what are you expecting out of the WIAC this season? You've got Platteville yourselves, you've got Stevens Point. It's Whitewater. I mean, we're not even talking about the Eau Claire, River Falls, and Stout and the rest who are going to try and make life miserable. What are you expecting out of conference play this year, and how do you rise above it?
Yeah, it's just going to be a war every night, like it always is. We looked at the stats earlier this year in terms of number of guys returning, and between our the top scorers in our league, I think it's 22 out of 30 of the top scorers return, and like 8 out of 10 of the first team guys return. So everybody got older. And so big thing for us is just because we got older and we returned a lot doesn't mean we're going to have more success. We've got to go out there and earn it every single night in the WIAC. And you mentioned a lot of the teams there, and everybody is gunning to win games and see if they can make a run. Because in our league, if you can finish top 2 or 3, as we proved last year, finishing 3rd in the league, if you can do that, you're good enough to make a run.
Yeah. Fair. All right, 2 questions about the team. What do you guys do really well?
What do we do really well? compete every possession.
Okay.
That's huge for us. We're motion, we're man-to-man on the defensive end, and we're just really big into we want to compete every single possession. We're not concerned about the score. And so if it's, if we happen to be up a few possessions, can we win the next possession we're in? And I think it goes back to kind of that leadership piece you were talking about. We've got a couple guys that are wired a certain way, and they don't let us do anything besides compete every single possession that we're in.
What don't you do well?
What don't we do well yet? Like most teams at our level, I'd say we struggle to guard the bounce sometimes. Not a lot of teams at Division III are blessed with incredible lateral athleticism.
Okay.
And so we've got to continue to get better at guarding the basketball, which is something that our guys need to continue to take pride in.
Well, I appreciate the frankness. I'm fascinated with how this WIAC's going to break down. I'm pretty much buckling up for the unexpected. I don't know if it'll be as crazy as NESCAC soccer was this year, where all the bottom seeds won in the playoffs. But I'm ready for that at this point in time. You said all three could make a run if you're in the top three. But how important is the home court advantage in the conference schedule? The tournament.
In the tournament, I would say it's huge. I mean, it's always the goal is to host that first round, that first weekend of the national tournament. We have not done that here, so it's definitely something that guys have wanted to do is host that first weekend. But it's also fun to go in the national tournament and play on the road that first weekend, as you get to go to a hostile environment. It is an advantage. I'm going to be honest with you. At Division III, it's a financial advantage.
Yeah, true. Very good point.
I don't know how many people talk about that, but the expense of traveling is a real expense for a lot of schools. And so that's just another thing that factors into it. But no doubt that's a fun thing, and it's a goal is to host that first weekend if you're lucky enough to be in.
Yeah, well, there's a long way between now and then, obviously, including the entire gauntlet of what will be the conference schedule. Coach, appreciate you taking the time. Appreciate you coming on, talking about your team as frankly as you did. As we have a tradition on this show, we always leave the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Yeah, appreciate everything you do, Dave. I got one question for you.
Oh.
Is your passion bucket overflowing tonight?
Oh, did someone dare you into a Dan Patrick, sir?
Nope. That's what we believe in.
Wow. I will usually only hear that out of the Dan Patrick show. That's impressive, sir. It is not overflowing, but it is awfully close to tipping over the edge.
Okay.
How's that work for you?
Well, we can help you. Fly out to Wisconsin, watch some WIAC conference play, stay with me, and we'll get your passion bucket overflowing.
Very nice, sir. Well played. If you didn't know, over my right shoulder, I got an Oshkosh jersey. It has been getting plenty of attention this season. If that may be enough to set your passion bucket over the edge, because you guys are getting – there are some people asking for the jersey. I don't know necessarily for good reasons. Coach, thanks so much. Take care of yourself.
Thanks,
I love the final word there. And happy holidays. We'll talk to you soon.
You as well.
All right. Bye. Matt Lewis, interim head coach at the 6th-ranked Oshkosh Titans. I've never been asked. I kid you not. If you're a fan of the Dan Patrick Show, folks, you will recognize the passion bucket statement. I thought there was a reference there, but clearly that is a thing for the Titans, and we will work on maybe getting out to WIAC land, or as he put it, WIAC land. I'm from the adage that it's an I, so it can't be we. I know there's a thing called a we, but it's two I's. Anyway, we're going off the deep end. But anyway, my point being, maybe we got to get out there to get our passion bucket a little further over the top. Here's the deal. I'm not at Stag Bowl right now. I clearly can tell you my passion bucket would be anywhere close to flowing over if I was at Stag Bowl right now, considering soccer Stag Bowl, D3 basketball. But that said, I'm enjoying the fact that this is a wonderful time of year, and of course we're in the middle of basketball season, and nothing's better than D3 basketball, in my opinion. We'll take another break when we come. Well, you know what? Yeah, we'll take another quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. Back with more after this.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Thursday evening as we wrap things up. Got a little bit more of that story behind the passion bucket thing from the Titans. I won't ruin the whole story, but it's pretty darn good. If you got questions for us for the last, about 8 minutes that we're on the air, at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville, email us hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Got a question from Andrew, who's at football. The usual crew. I'm just not there because they didn't need as much production assistance this year with the Ghilardi Trophy not taking place. But it's Pat Coleman, Frank Rossi, Keith McMillan, Adam Tur, and I'm missing one of the guys in there. Greg's out there as well at the football championships in Shenandoah, Texas. I probably get a 2-year reprieve. I suspect my duties at the Stag Bowl will return when it heads to Canton, Ohio in the year 2020. That's when I suspect I will be back to traveling for Stag Bowl at this time of year. East Texas Baptist defeated LeTourneau. We didn't know what time the game was starting, but they played, and it wasn't close. Wow. East Texas Baptist is turning into a juggernaut here, folks. They won 77-44. This is now a LeTourneau team that we know isn't tremendous, but it's just that shows that East Texas Baptist is focused. There's some darn good basketball in Texas this year. Easily could see 3 teams coming out of there. I could even see 4. Should Trinity Texas put it together. And Trinity Texas was having an off year in women's basketball by their standards, and they're still a darn good team. Jeez, what East Texas Baptist, Mary Hardin Baylor, Texas Dallas are doing is worth watching. I forgot Austin. There's Austin. It is amazing what's going on down there, and I absolutely highly encourage you to check them up. You need a Hope jersey. Well, I don't disagree, but someone's going to have to send one to me, Andrew. You look great tonight, Dave. We'll be watching Stag Bowl tomorrow night. With Miles and Jeff in New Jersey. Oh, that's right, sir. Chris, you were out on a special trip to New Jersey. I will be watching the Stag Bowl as well. This will be the first time I'm actually sitting and watching the Stag Bowl in 9 years. Usually I record on the DVR and head back home, and at some point during the week I'm getting ready for basketball. I turn on the game, and I just realized that will not be the case. I can sit and watch it at home, I think. Can I tomorrow night? I might be able to. I might have to. Some other people nearby, but we'll have the game on to be sure. Wow, that's an interesting point of view. I just noticed our crawl has ceased to work. I have no idea why. There's no reason that shouldn't be moving across. Let's see. There we go. There. Now we got it moving. Sorry about that. Oh, now, yeah, there we go. Good call, Chris. But hey, you have fun at your shindig, sir. Andrew, back to your point about the Hope jersey. We have jerseys from John Carroll and somewhere else that we haven't hung up yet. We need to hang them up, and we will take whatever jerseys we have. We have jerseys from Brockport, Ramapo, Greensboro, which is buried right now, or Greensville, I should say, which is buried right now. We got to fix that. Ohio Wesleyan, though, we paid for that one. That's the one over my left shoulder up here in the corner, number 22. That's signed by Lauren Hill. If anybody doesn't know the story, Lauren Hill has that signed that one. Behind me is the center jersey. We may have to move that one to somewhere else. Oshkosh is the one that sits there. By the way, the Ohio Wesleyan one is framed because it was a Lauren Hill jersey. We wanted to frame it. Center is framed because it was the first jersey sent to us other than that Ohio Wesleyan one, which we paid for donations. Then we have the Oshkosh one. You can barely see it, but we do have a New Jersey City one. It's on an opposite corner, you'll notice, from Ramapo's. We have John Carroll, and we have another one, and I can't remember who it is, and someone's going to hate me for forgetting who it is. We got to get them hung, and then whoever else wants to send one, send one. We'll do our best. Hi, Miles. Yeah, you were tagged in a post here on this show. I was looking at men's basketball scores. MIT ended up winning by 20 over Bridgewater. No surprise there. Loris is going to tip off here in a few minutes against Buena Vista. That's worth watching. Remember, Buena Vista under a new head coach. Remember, their head coach left. Not Van Haften. That's Calvin's coach. I apologize. Vanderstreet. No, that's Calvin's. Van Haften. I was right. Sorry, the two of them actually coached together at one time. Vanderstreet. Oh, come on, Dave. Van Haften was under Vanderstreet at one point. It's the Vanda that's screwing me up there. Anyway, Buena Vista's under a new head coach this year, and it's something I've been keeping an eye on just because I'm curious. 3-5 start in the season. They've lost to start the season against a non-Division III, beat Bethany Lutheran, Gustavus Adolphus, and Co. Lost to Stevens Point by 15, lost to Elmhurst by 5. It's going to be a rough season, I think, under Todd Lawrenson. But it doesn't mean that Vista can't be a tough team. And so we'll keep an eye on that one. Rose Holman is playing Boyce tonight, not to make much of that. Southern Vermont and Northern Vermont Johnson are playing in basically a battle of the only very few Vermont schools that are around. There's really not a lot of else going on in men's basketball tonight. I'm trying to see. St. Joseph's Maine also beat Maine Farmington in women's basketball tonight. Oh, we didn't mention this, but it's a little hint. Maybe it did mention a couple shows ago. It's a little bit of a blur. SUNY Delhi has announced it's moving to the NAC starting next season. Keep an eye on that. That's what I believe is the tip of the iceberg of what will be some bigger moves in the future that will have a ripple effect. It will have an absolute ripple effect across the board in Division III, and I'm really interested to see how that all plays out. Another Top 25 comes out on Monday. We'll talk more about that on Sunday's show. I don't see a lot of movement, but there's a handful of games in here that we got to keep an eye on. I mean, St. Thomas is playing Trinity, Texas. We mentioned coming up here. Trinity, Texas is getting votes. St. Thomas is playing them coming up on Sunday. So a game to keep an eye on. We told you Thomas More, who's playing Baldwin Wallace tomorrow, who's nationally ranked. Or Thomas More is playing Baldwin Wallace. We'll probably play Hope, who's nationally ranked. We could have a battle there of two top 4 teams come Saturday. That will be worth watching the rest of the weekend. Scranton is playing, this is women's basketball, is going to be playing Ithaca and Capital this weekend. Scranton's in for probably its biggest test of the year, though they absolutely smoked York, which really surprised me because I thought York would be more competitive. York is still finding themselves, but I thought they'd be more competitive. I'd tell you the Messiah-Albright game would be worth turning into, but Albright not the same team they've been the last couple of years. I think Messiah is going to get an easy victory there. Mary Hardin Baylor is not much on the radar. They're playing the Ozarks this week. It's not worth writing home about, to be blunt. Baldwin Wallace actually has a big weekend. They played Capital earlier and beat them by 12. They have Thomas More, as we mentioned, and then if things are right, they've got Hope, or they got Finlandia. Somebody's going to have to play Finlandia besides Hope. I find it interesting. Hope was smart. They pitted Baldwin Wallace and Thomas More against each other. Other games that jump out at me, Ithaca's had an interesting weekend at 6-1. They played Rochester and defeated them. Rochester just not the team everyone thought they... let me phrase that. Rochester's exactly who I thought they were going to be. Rochester not the team everyone else thought they would be. They will take on Capital this weekend and then Scranton. Kind of a hint of what we were talking about earlier. We talked about the Muhlenberg game against Moravian. These are just games I think you should tune into. this weekend. Trinity's going to play Augsburg before they play St. Thomas. The Augsburg game might be worth tuning in for as well. On the men's side of things, Nebraska Wesleyan's going to take on George Fox. You should probably check that one out. George Fox can be tricky. I don't know if that ends up being anything, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Other games that jump out at me, Stevens Point will take on St. Thomas. That game coming up to Saturday. That'll be a game worth watching, to be sure. There's another one in here. Really, well, by the way, Nichols 9-0 this season. New coach, and they're still playing well. There's another story kind of like Oshkosh. We'll have to get Nichols on the show sometime soon to talk about all of that. Christopher Newport's going to play Virginia Wesleyan. I'm going to have an eye on that one because I think Virginia Wesleyan, they aren't tremendous this year, but they've been buggers, and I think they can give Christopher Newport a game. Other games that are taking place, by the way, Amherst beat Springfield. Springfield's in a little bit of trouble. The injury to Ross has really kind of caused problems, and I think Springfield's going to have to figure out how to right the ship at some point to position themselves should they not win the conference. We talked about that last week. Lynchburg is playing McDaniel on Saturday in men's basketball, Sunday in men's basketball. That might be an interesting game. Wheaton beat Platteville. Now they'll take on North Central. That game you should circle. That game will be good. Oswego's taking on St. Lawrence. That'll be worth watching, I think. WPI will take on Husson. It may not be a big game, but WPI is trying to stay undefeated. Husson could give them a game for it. Platteville and Hope is definitely worth watching this weekend in men's basketball. New Jersey City and TCNJ is going to be worth watching on Saturday for sure. So there you go. Those are kind of what I'm looking at in men's and women's basketball this season, and that draws us to a close on the show. Yes, Andrew, I will see you on Sunday. We'll be on the air 7 o'clock Eastern time. Already got a couple of guest ideas on the women's side. Got to get a couple more on the men's side, and we will be good to go. We'll probably see if we can get Bob and Ryan on the show to go through our early season thoughts before we take a break. So that's what we'll plan on doing. If you got guest ideas or thoughts or whatever you want, email them, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can always join us on Twitter @D3Hoopsville and #Hoopsville as well. And, of course, you can follow us on Instagram to find out who we have guests on shows, too, @D3Hoopsville and #Hoopsville there as well. Want to thank Charles Katsiafikis from Pomona Pizza for coming on the show, Ron Rohn from Muhlenberg, Madison Temple from Thomas More, and Matt Lewis from Oshkosh. And, of course, all the sports information directors who helped us out with those guests as well. Mike from Muhlenberg, for example. Corey from Thomas More. I was about to call him St. Thomas, from Thomas More. And others. I want to thank them for their time. And, of course, those are the SIDs who tuned in as well. Thank you for your time. If you got questions, you know how to get a hold of us. Thanks to our guest for coming on, Keenan, by the way, from Oshkosh. I want to thank him as well. We're going to take a break. Back on the air Sunday. We'll then give you an update on what Thursday's show looks like. We're going to double check how many games are really taking place next week. See if Thursday's show makes any sense. Just as we always double check. In the meantime, enjoy the Stag Bowl. Root on Division III if you can. The game is at 7 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPNU. Of course, you can tune in the game there. Tune in the audio broadcast. Sync them if you can, and listen to Pat Coleman, Keith McMillan, and the boys call the game. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. I want to thank our partners at the Women's Basketball Coaches Association and the National Association of Basketball Coaches for their support, and, of course, those at D3Hoops.com. We have more to add to that list as the season progresses. I've made that promise every show. I will be living up to that promise shortly. I promise you. Again, if you would like to use any of this show over, we certainly appreciate that, but please just email us, as Hoopsville is the copyrighted entity of Hoopsville, DMAC Productions, and myself. We just want to know if you're using it, and we want to give our formal permissions should you like to use it again. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Fun show. We'll see you back here Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. Good night, everybody.